A shining star, the third baseman, Graig Nettles.
Nettles was the guy you wanted at the plate when the game was really riding.
He was a clutch hitter.
Anything that was hit his way, he caught.
Holy cow! Look at that Nettles! What a play by Nettles!
If I'm going to have him hit a ball somewhere, I'd better hit him to Graig. He'll make the play.
Great play by Nettles! Unbelievable!
You can't have a bigger honor than being named the captain of the Yankees.
He is the #1 third baseman in Yankees history, no question.
Martin once said, having Graig Nettles on your team was like having a manager on the field all the time. A student of the game, and quick-witted too, Nettles was one of the early building blocks of those championship teams in the 1970s. Hi, I'm John Sterling for the Yes Network, and this is Yankeeography. Although Graig Nettles was an all-star and a power hitter, he's best remembered as one of the greatest fielding third basemen of all time. For proof, one need only to look back to Game 3 of the 1978 World Series.
This evening from Yankee Stadium, Game 3 of the 1978 World Series.
When we do look back to great moments in baseball history, it's no surprise that we often find a hero.
Batting sixth, the third baseman, Graig Nettles.
They just kept hitting it at me, and I kept catching it.
What a play by Nettles!
He is absolutely fabulous.
Couldn't get a ball by him. Just couldn't.
Graig Nettles with quite a defensive display that inning.
4 times I thought I was running into the corner to cut off a double, and each time, Graig dove, and I'd say, thank you, Graig.
Hot smash. What a play by Nettles.
Oh, he caught it. Oh, he threw the second for one. Oh, they turned a double play. Oh, man.
Double play, 5, 4, 3.
That was probably the best fielding performance I've ever seen.
That was a clinic on how to play third base.
I mean, you couldn't believe that the man could make so many great plays.
I thank the Dodgers for helping make me famous.
The world saw how great he was.
Nettles is putting on the most sensational third base play since Brooks Robinson.
He made plays like Brooks Robinson used to make.
Brooks had been the barometer for great defensive performances at third base, thanks to his wizardry in the 1970 Fall Classic.
Anytime they mention me and Brooks in the same sentence, I'm honored by it.
In his Hall of Fame career, Robinson won 16 Gold Gloves and had a lifetime .971 fielding percentage at third. So him or Nettles? Well, not even Brooks knows the answer.
If you watch Graig Nettles play 162 games, you're going to say, hey, this guy, how can you be any better?
It's probably unfair to even ask anybody who's better, because then you're almost talking bad about the other guy.
Believe me, Nettles was just as good.
What a play by Graig Nettles.
Having him back there, you take third base away from the opposing hitters.
He made some plays that were just, breathtaking.
He was the Brooks Robinson of the Yankees. He did it all, and then he popped home runs.
Indeed, Nettles was much more than just a master of defense.
Nettles seemed to rise to the challenge.
He was a clutch hitter.
That one is well hit. It's tied up on the home run by Graig Nettles.
If you made a mistake, he was going to make you pay.
He could kill the high cheese. He could just kill the high fastball.
Always one of those guys, when he walked to the plate, he was a threat to hurt you at any moment.
Graig's approach to hitting never wavered, for he knew that patience, knowledge, and discipline would almost always produce results.
He would sit back, he'd work the count, and get the pitch he wanted and hit it in the right field seats.
He knew where that porch was, the 296-foot right field line.
That might be, and it is gone. Graig Nettles. That ball hit in the right field seats, a line drive.
He was a good player, became a great player, and a perfect Yankee Stadium player.
390 times, Nettles touched them all. The 5th highest home run total for any Major League third baseman.
He is the #1 third baseman in Yankees history, no question, no doubt.
Red Ralph, Bobby Brown, Clete Boyer. All excellent, but there was only one Graig Nettles.
I am very proud when they compare me to Graig Nettles. I actually felt like he was as good, maybe a little bit better than me.
He is one of the greatest third basemen in history.
But just how great? For despite his accomplishments with both the bat and the glove, Graig Nettles is not in the National Baseball Hall of Fame.
There's some guys in the Hall of Fame that aren't nearly the player that Graig Nettles is.
I don't care what anybody said. Graig Nettles, to me, is in the Hall of Fame. He's a Hall of Famer.
Coming up next on Yankeeography.
Just to know that you're on that same field where Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig, Mickey Mantle, DiMaggio, and Yogi. So I was happy to get out of Cleveland, and I really was happy to come to New York.
The story of Graig Nettles begins in San Diego, where he was born in 1944, the second of 3 athletic boys.
The Nettles family is a great athletic family. Golfers, football players, they could do it all.
The Nettles boys honed their baseball skills on the same field that developed another San Diego legend.
They didn't have any organized Little League in San Diego in the neighborhood I lived in, so we went up to the playground and chose up sides and then played all day long.
During his teenage years, Nettles was actually more polished on the hardwood than on the baseball field.
My first memory of Graig Nettles was that he was really a great basketball player down San Diego High School. But interestingly enough, playing baseball for San Diego High, he batted down in the lineup. I think his senior year he batted .254.
Well, you know, he played 2 sports in high school and then in college. In fact, he actually went to San Diego State on a basketball scholarship, kind of like Tony Gwynn, you know, who came along and did the same thing.
I guess I was too small in high school to do much in baseball. And when I got into college, I got a little bigger, put a little more weight on, and so, you know, I realized that I wasn't going to get any taller for basketball purposes, so I really concentrated on baseball.
Graig started San Diego State for 2 seasons, and then was picked by Minnesota in the 4th round of the '65 draft, where he met a future mentor.
When Billy first came down from the Twins to manage us after the first month of the season in AAA, I didn't like Billy at all. I didn't get along with him. He was always yelling and screaming at us, and you know, he was trying to get into our heads, trying to be a psychologist and everything, and I just didn't take to it too well. But once we started turning around, we started winning, and I could see what what his reasoning was for being the way he was. I ended up loving the guy.
Once he made it to the Twins, Graig played 2 years out of position in the outfield, and then some good fortune.
Best thing was happened when he got traded to Cleveland. Alvin Dark said, "You're my third baseman." You know, he showed him some confidence, and the rest is history. He turned into a pretty good third baseman.
Things just started happening for me. I led the league in fielding that year, and a lot of people thought that I made some great conversion from an outfielder to a third baseman. They had never seen me in the minor leagues. They didn't know that I really was a third baseman.
Graig began to blossom, and the Yankees saw his potential. So come the winter of '72, Nettles was on the move once again. New York was building for the future, and Nettles brought them a left-handed bat that was tailor-made for Yankee Stadium. He was also rock solid at third base.
When they acquired Graig Nettles before the 1973 season, that was one of the first times when you felt that things were moving in the right direction.
Graig was coming into his own right at that time, and it was a perfect fit to begin to mold that up-and-coming team that the Yankees put together for World Championships.
Just to know that you're on that same field where Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig, Mickey Mantle, DiMaggio, and Yogi, and all those other greats. So I was happy to get out of Cleveland, and I really was happy to come to New York.
His first year as a Yankee, Graig tied for the team lead with 22 home runs. In 1974, Graig tied a major league record for home runs in the month of April. even though the Yankees played their home games at pitcher-friendly Shea Stadium, while the house that Ruth built underwent renovations.
Shea was not a good home run hitter's ballpark, but I had 11 home runs in April.
A home run by Graig Nettles.
Throughout my career, I've been a streaky hitter, and that was one of the best streaks I was ever on.
Graig was, by now, recognized as the best third baseman in the league. Still, the postseason eluded the Yankees. Then in 1976, they returned to Yankee Stadium under a manager for whom Nettles had played in the past, and things began to click.
We had Billy Martin was going to be our manager, and he kept telling us, when we get back in that new stadium, you guys are going to love it. And he was right. We got good pitching, we got good hitting, and we're going to have a winning team.
And when the Yankees began to win, their rivalry with Boston took on a whole new life, thanks in part to Nettles.
Bill Lee was a big mouth, a left-handed pitcher, and he made a lot of remarks about the Yankees when they were in these tough pennant races in the middle 70s. And the guy that always needled him back in print was Nettles, who was very quick and very funny and really knew how to get under a player's skin.
The tension kept building. Then one May night in the Bronx, with Lee on the mound, it came to a head.
In the opposite field with a base hit.
The rivalry crystallized in one play.
And let's see, he holds on to it.
Pinella ran into Fisk at home plate, and then everybody started jumping around there on play.
And they have a fight. Here they go. Pinella in the middle. And the bench is empty.
Bill Lee decided to get involved in it, and he came over to Nettles.
Bill Lee is now going over to a couple of the Yankees, and there they go again.
Nettles also happened to be the toughest physical guy on the Yankees. He's the one guy you wouldn't want to start a fight with on the Yankees.
Things have gotten out of hand here at Yankee Stadium, and Bill Lee is really hurt.
Bill Lee got his shoulder broken and a couple black eyes. And, you know, there's some guys that you didn't mind mixing it up with on that team, and he was one of them.
Nettles punished pitchers with both his fists and his bat in '76, becoming the first Yankee to lead the league in home runs since a fellow named Roger Maris.
Graig Nettles was a perfect Yankee Stadium hitter. He was the Roger Maris of the 70s. He was a great pull hitter.
That ball is gone.
To lead the league is nice, but hitting 32 home runs was not a surprise to me. I always thought I had good power.
He was far more than just a guy that was hitting the ball out of the ballpark. Deeper picture of a guy like Graig Nettles was his ability to win.
That ability to win led the Yankees into the postseason for the first time in 12 years. Nettles went on to hit 2 home runs in Game 4 of the League Championship Series. In the next game, he somehow predicted one of the greatest moments in Yankees history.
As Chambliss was going to bat, for some reason, Graig really had the notion that Chambliss was going to hit the home run to beat Kansas City.
If the game ended fast, the fans were going to come on the field. I was telling everybody, watch your equipment, because the gloves and bats would be gone in a heartbeat.
Chris Chambliss has won it. The American League pennant for the New York Yankees.
He has a pretty good vision for the future. That was sort of part of his trait. That's within his personality to predict something like that.
But that's still my biggest thrill in baseball was Chris's home run to put us into the World Series. I mean, for an electric moment, that was it.
In '76, Nettles led the league with 32 home runs. But that was just a tease of what was still to come.
Had a better year than I did the year before when I led the league in home runs. At 77, I hit 37 home runs.
But it wasn't just his power that made Nettles so good.
Graig Nettles was the guy you wanted at the plate when the game was really right. A lot of guys will get 100 RBIs, but they'll get 2 or 3 in a 10-1 game. Nettles got him in the 3-2 game.
All of which culminated in Graig's best season ever. Meanwhile, in the field, Graig was well on his way to winning his first Gold Glove award.
Got plenty of time.
He was such a quick third baseman on his feet. When he dived, he never missed a ball.
Great play by Nettles.
Couldn't get a ball by him. Just couldn't. If there's a runner on scoring position, he's knocking it down.
Holy cow. He saved 2 runs
Nettles' confident play rubbed off on his teammates, who approached the postseason with a new attitude.
I think we realized that, you know, the big thrill of getting to the World Series is done. Now let's get there and win it.
But to do so, they'd have to get past their fiercest rivals of the 70s, the Kansas City Royals.
The players on the Royals hated the Yankees. The players on the Yankees literally hated the Kansas City Royals.
The championship series lived up to its hype, with the Royals taking a 2-1 lead. The Yankees were on the ropes in Game 4, but Nettles was determined to keep the series going.
On the ground through, base hit. Randolph scores.
Boy, that was a big one for Graig.
Big enough to be the eventual game winner and set the stage for a Game 5 prize fight.
That ball's going to be over the head of Rivers. McRae is going to score. Press for third.
The Royals tried to score an early knockout blow, but Nettles fought back.
That's what happens when you're fighting for a pennant.
Brett went in hard at Nettles, and Nettles kicked him, and that's when the fight started.
It was a bang-bang play at third base, and I slid in, and I came up, and I gave Graig Nettles a forearm to the face.
Nettles the wrong guy to fight with, I think.
Oh, man. He steps back and kicks me in the face. I jump up, and I grab him, and I just throw a haymaker.
It was just something that happened in the heat of the battle. Two hard-nosed players that didn't want to back down from each other, and we went at it.
The explosion was expected, and it came very early.
There were a lot of guys that were bigger and stronger, but Nettles was just tougher.
Graig's toughness helped inspire the Yankees to take the lead, and he also set in motion the game's final outs.
Ground ball at third. Nettles to Randolph. Double play, and the Yankees have won the pennant.
So it'll be the Los Angeles Dodgers and the New York Yankees in the World Series.
Having been swept the year before by Cincinnati's Big Red Machine, the Yankees and Nettles had something to prove.
Smith hits it on the ground toward third. Nettles got to hurry. Good play by Graig Nettles. Barehanding it. Boy, that is a super play.
And Nettles' super season got even better as he helped lead the Yankees past the Dodgers in 6 games to bring the World Series championship back to New York.
It was awesome. It was one of the highlights of my life.
The Yankees win their 21st World Series.
Coming up next on Yankeeography.
Even though I didn't have the great stuff, I knew that if I'm going to have him hit a ball somewhere, it better hit him to Graig.
Graig Nettles putting on a fielding clinic.
They called Yankee Stadium the Bronx Zoo in '78, and with all the distractions, the team struggled.
With Billy there, everything was kind of helter-skelter. It was always a crisis every day. And then when Lemon took over, everybody relaxed and got back to just playing baseball.
For the 2nd straight year, Nettles won a Gold Glove and finished in the top 6 for MVP. More importantly, his consistently outstanding play helped the Yankees stage one of the most remarkable comebacks in baseball history, culminating with a 1-game playoff against their bitter rivals at Boston's Fenway Park.
The tension was there that day. I mean, you could feel it in the air. You try to treat it just like it's another game, but we all realize how important it was.
Thanks in part to Bucky Dent's dramatic 7th-inning blast, the Yankees took a lead into the bottom of the 9th, where Nettles tried to ease the tension with his trademark sense of humor.
The tying run is at third base. It is up to Yaz.
Graig Nettles is a great kidder, and before Goose lets go of the pitch, Graig Nettles is yelling,
"Come on now, Goose, pop him up, pop him up.
Pop him up, pop him up, pop him up."
That was what I was thinking of when he came up.
And Goose has a little smile on his face, and throws a 100-mile fastball.
Popped up. That might be it.
And Yastrzemski actually does pop up the ball, and as the ball goes up in the air,
I said, oh, no, not to me, not to me.
Nettles should have it.
If it had been any higher, I would have called for Bucky, because I hated pop-ups.
He'll squeeze it, and it's over. And look at those Yankees.
The Yankees rode the momentum into the ALCS, where for the third straight postseason, they faced the hated Kansas City Royals. New York took a 2-1 lead, but were trailing in Game 4 when Nettles once again rose to the occasion.
That one is well hit. Good tie this ball game up. And it's tied up on the home run by Graig Nettles.
They'd add still another run to take a 2-1 lead. Then late in the game, Nettles offered a glimpse of the magic still to come.
Great catchers of all time.
Graig's amazing play helped the Yankees dispose of the Royals in 4 games and gave New York its 3rd straight pennant, all of which set up still another World Series showdown with the Dodgers. The Yankees quickly found themselves down 2-0 to Los Angeles. They were desperate for someone who could turn the tide in Game 3, a game that simply had to be won. They turned to their ace, Ron Guidry, but on this night, Louisiana Lightning lacked his usual thunder, and that set the stage for Nettles.
Even though I didn't have the great stuff, I knew that if I'm going to have him hit a ball somewhere, it better hit him to Graig. He'll make the play.
Hot smash. What a play by Nettles. Throw in time.
I kept throwing sliders in, fastballs in.
Right to Nettles. Graig Nettles putting on a fielding clinic.
Play after play, Nettles flashed his gold.
Every inning it seemed like the bases were loaded and had to make some kind of a fancy play.
it's very rare that you hear somebody described as a clutch fielder, but Nettles seemed to make the big play at the most important time.
One strike pitch to Garvey. Hit hard once again. Nettles will go to second. He just
We should have scored 10, 11 runs in that game. Anything that was hit his way, he caught.
He is absolutely fabulous. I don't believe it.
Started feeling sorry for the Dodgers. They just couldn't get the ball by him. He was just unconscious.
Still, the Dodgers hung tough and loaded the bases in the sixth.
Your pitcher's in trouble. Your team is in trouble. The Dodgers are ready to blow open this game, blow open the series.
The bases are full. Nettles with a great play. The dial to get the run and save 2 rounds. What a display by Graig Nettles, the Yankee third baseman.
In one of the finest performances in the Fall Classic, Nettles single-handedly saved a World Series.
Suddenly, Nettles turned this whole thing around, and the Yankees caught fire as a result of it.
With Nettles leading the charge, the Yankees won 4 straight games to repeat as World Series champions. It was, without a doubt, one for the books.
No team in World Series history ever lost the first 2 games and then won the next 4.
And Nettles' history-making performance earned him a special place in Yankees lore.
If it wasn't for him, boy, I mean, there's a good chance we'd have won that World Series. That was the best feeling performance I've ever seen.
When you make plays like that in the World Series, that's when you get the recognition. It happened with Roberto Clemente. It happened with Brooks Robinson. And here it's happening with Nettles.
I always tease him. I said, you know, if I really would have had good stuff, nobody would have known that you were that good at third baseman.
They kept hitting it at me. That's what I keep telling people. They just kept hitting it at me, and I kept catching it.
That series was a sweet spot in time for him. That was his time to shine defensively for all time.
Coming up next on Yankeeography.
People always ask you, what do you guys talk about when he comes to the mound? He could be bases loaded and nobody out. He'd look at you and go like, how are you going to get out of this one?
At the other world.
With 2 Gold Gloves, Graig Nettles was by now acknowledged to be a defensive wizard, but he was also becoming known for having a savvy baseball mind.
He was a Billy Martin ball player. He was taught by Billy to play hard, give 100%, play smart, nose to the grindstone.
Great play by Nettles.
Billy, I learned a lot from him in that respect. And he let me position myself out on the field. He realized that I knew what I was doing out there. He told me once before, he said, it's like having a coach on the field when you're out there. You have about 15 or 20 seconds between pitches, so I would vision myself making all these plays. I'd vision myself going to the left, going to the right. So when they did come about, it seemed like I had done it already.
He had a good sense for the game. He played like most defenders. You play to the situation. You know, you move over here, you know, whatever situation is in the ball game, you adjust your game.
He seemed to be in the right spot because he'd pull a ball down the line, he'd be there, he'd hit one toward the hole, and he'd find a way to get over there as well. He just had a very unique sense of how to make adjustments.
His knowledge of the hitters, you know, Bucky was at short. He would let him know if it was a changeup or a curveball coming.
He had the smarts to know where to position himself, and he had the natural instincts to react and make plays that other guys couldn't make.
Nettles got plenty of time. Great play by Graig Nettles, and the side is retired.
But Nettles' knack for knowing what to do wasn't confined to the field. He also helped strike a delicate balance in a clubhouse that by this time was being likened to a zoo.
Aside from what he did on the field, his biggest asset was in the clubhouse.
He had this great sense of humor, this quick wit, ability with one-liners that helped the levity on the team, helped them get through a lot of the difficult times, the controversies that were going on. I remember some of his lines. They're still among my favorites. And the great line he had was that most kids, when they grow up, dream of either being in the circus or playing Major League Baseball. I'm lucky I got to do both.
I was doing the book, Greg, one night, he says, so what are you going to name this book? And I said, it's up to a publishing company. And he says, well, it ought to be From Cy Young to Sayonara.
Goose had kind of taken over Sparky's job. Sparky had just won the Cy Young the year before. I'm thinking, oh, Jesus, it's Sayonara for Sparky. I'm thinking, yeah, that's good. He went from Cy Young to Sayonara in 1 year.
And I loved that so much. I really did.
He always seemed to know when to be serious and when to make a joke to keep guys laughing.
A guy that kept the clubhouse loose, guys that you need to have on the team.
It was genuinely a great cast of characters we had. It made for great bus rides, great plane rides. Every day you went to the ballpark, it was fun.
That sense of humor Graig embraced often made its way onto the field.
I mean, he could say things at a certain time and just relieve the tension as far as what was going on in the game.
People always ask you, like, well, what do you guys talk about when he comes to the mound and talk? Well, sometimes he'd make a joke. It could be bases loaded and nobody out. He'd walk up to the mound and he'd look at you and he'd go like, well, how are you going to get out of this one? He knew what was going to happen to me was I was going to get so infuriated, I was going to try to strike 3 guys out. Having him at third base was actually a blessing to me.
Nettles loved to set gears in motion, but he seldom stuck around to see what happened next, and that earned him a nickname.
You know he has his nickname, Puff.
Well, he'd be standing beside you 1 minute, next thing you know, 1 second later you look around and Puff, he's gone.
Well, he likes to start little instigate trouble and stuff like that. He would say stuff and get this guy and sail him, and all of a sudden he'd be gone.
We'd all be in some place, and all of a sudden he would just take off. So he puffed again. He took off.
Coming up next on Yankeeography.
Oh, that's probably as proud a moment as I've had as a Yankee when they called me up and told me they were making me captain.
You can't have a bigger honor.
By the end of the 70s, Graig Nettles was established as a great run producer.
That might be, and it is gone.
Nettles trailed just 2 legends for the most RBIs in the 70s by men who played the entire decade in the American League. But then came 1980.
I got hepatitis somehow. I still don't know how I got it. I missed 2.5 months of that season.
Graig couldn't stand not being out on the field. Just killed him.
Nettles missed 73 games that year, but began to get his health back at just the right time.
I was resting, and they said, well, we want you to try and get in shape and get ready for the playoffs. I said, man, I haven't even played in 2 months.
Been out for most of the second half of the season, came back just a week ago.
When he came back for the playoffs in 1980, I mean, that was like breathing new life back into him.
High in the air, very deep. Back goes Watson at the wall, and
I got about halfway to third, and my legs just turned rubbery. You know, I just had nothing left. As I started to slow down at third, he's waving me around more. I just kind of fell across the plate.
and inside the park, home run from Graig Nettles.
I looked back at the catcher, and it was Darryl Porter. I said, is it over yet? It seemed like it took forever.
But not even Graig's heroics could stave off the Royals, who captured the 1980 pennant. The following year, the Yankees returned to the League Championship Series, where they faced a familiar foe in Billy Martin and the Oakland A's. With a healthy Nettles in the lineup, the Yankees swept the A's and outscored them 20-4 in the series.
And the Yankees lead 3-0 by Graig Nettles.
And Graig was the batting hero for New York, going 6 for 12, including one 3-run hit in all 3 games.
It was a tremendous, tremendous performance by Graig. He had 9 RBIs in that series and was named the MVP.
Welcome to the World Series for 1981. This is the 11th time the Dodgers and the Yankees have faced each other in the Fall Classic.
And right off the bat, Graig gave the Dodgers flashbacks to '78.
Oh, no, not again. Here we go again.
What do you do to cope with Graig Nettles?
This guy was a thorn in our butt.
Look at that Nettles. Holy cow. He's back in form.
But late in Game 2, Nettles suffered a bad break.
I dove for balls, landed on my thumb.
As a result, he would miss the next 3 games.
And that was huge for us because he was hot.
Nettles right there, sitting out again, which is killing him.
To miss him, I think, was a big key of why we didn't win.
The Dodgers are the 1981 champions of baseball.
If nothing else, the loss of Nettles emphasized his importance to the team and prompted the Yankees to name him captain, joining a select group indeed.
Well, that's probably as proud a moment as I've had as a Yankee when they called me up and told me they were making me captain. There hadn't been a lot of them. Thurman was the first one since Graig, you know, and then when Thurman died, there was a void, and I didn't even think they'd name another captain.
He just emphasized what the word captain meant to a club. He was just like a guy like Munson.
You can't have a bigger honor than being named the captain of the Yankees.
Leadership takes many forms. One of them, gamesmanship, was personified on a hot July day in 1983.
Earlier in the season, Graig had noticed that George Brett's bat had a tremendous amount of pine tar on it.
I noticed that Brett, you know, he's such a good hitter, he doesn't break very many bats, so the more he handles that bat with the pine tar, he's going to get it up there where it's not supposed to be.
Nettles comes over to me and he says, hey, Brett's using an illegal bat. I said, oh, okay. You know, he says, if he gets a hit, we're going to get his bat. Make sure you get his bat.
Lo and behold, he gets a big hit against Goosey. It's a home run.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. That's gone.
And here comes Billy out of the dugout and called him on it.
Billy Martin and the Yankees want the bat.
McClellan lays it on home plate, motions, he's out, and then all hell breaks loose. Nettles is clapping, we're going, yeah, all right.
Brett is out, and the team is mad.
Everybody thought it was Billy Martin, but it was Graig Nettles that brought it to our attention.
But the '83 season proved eventful in other ways, too, for it was then that Graig began collaborating on a book.
The book was scheduled to come out opening day of '84, and the Yankees had just signed me to a 2-year contract for the '84 and '85 season.
The Yankees were not pleased with Nettles' penmanship, and the feeling became mutual.
I was kind of unhappy there at the time anyway because they had gone out and gotten another third baseman, Toby Harrah, and they were going to platoon us. Even though the year before I had done real well against left-hand pitching, and I didn't see any reason to be platoon. Then when the book came out, they just said, get rid of him. Send him to San Diego. They knew that was the only place that I would agree to go.
Welcome back to Yankeeography. After 11 solid seasons in New York, it was time for Nettles to go home.
When I got out there to San Diego, in my own hometown, it was fabulous.
The old hometown looked pretty much the same, But Graig's role on the Padres, as that of a sage veteran, was quite different.
Graig Nettles and Goose Gossage joined me to make it a trio of experienced players. We became the aorta of a team that was young, but had a lot of talent.
Talent that would benefit from Graig's wisdom and experience. Men like Tony Gwynn, who'd become one of the game's most prolific hitters.
He was a on-the-field, by-example leader.
And the example Graig set the Padres on fire.
Well hit right field. Way back. Gone. Home run.
In 1984, Graig helped lead the Padres to their first ever pennant.
He was a catalyst on that championship team. And, of course, whenever a San Diego kid comes home, the fans love it here.
Everything fell into place for us in that year in '84.
Well, not quite. At least not at the start of the championship series against Chicago.
Batting fourth, the third baseman, number 9, Graig Nettles.
For the Cubs won the first 2 games of the series easily.
We went out and destroyed them in Game 1. We battled them and picked up the win in Game 2.
He'll have the play and makes the catch. The Cubs jump out to a commanding lead in the series.
When we came back from Chicago 2 games down, the fans in San Diego were the big factor.
A full house right here at Jack Murphy Stadium in San Diego.
Me and Nettles were about the only guys that had been through a pennant race before. And I told the guys, all we have to do is win 1 ball game, and that really changes the complexion of this whole thing.
The young Padres heeded the call of their veterans, and even the series at 2 games apiece, San Diego was beside itself.
Those 3 games, the fans were, it was the loudest place I've ever been in my life.
They are geared and ready to go tomorrow.
And in that final game, the wise old vets closed out this remarkable comeback.
Off the hands, Nettles will go the short way, and then there were none. The Padres have won it all.
And we got into the World Series that first year, so it was, it was one of the highlights of my life.
The 1984 World Series matched the Padres against the dominant Detroit Tigers.
If you knew what was going to happen, you just knew the Padres were overmatched and it was over.
And that's precisely what did happen, as the Tigers stormed past San Diego in 5 games to capture their 4th World Series championship.
It's a happy bunch of Tigers.
For Nettles, the '84 series was his 5th and final appearance in the Fall Classic. Graig played 2 more years with the Padres, but realized that his time in baseball was coming to a close.
San Diego was probably Graig's last hurrah, because after that he really began to decline. He was getting older and slowing down. His career was ending.
Before it did, however, Graig made 2 final stops. First, Atlanta, where he reached a home run milestone.
Here's a long one, and it is gone.
This pinch hit home run by Nettles, his 389th career home run, ties him with Johnny Bench on the all-time list.
Then in 1988, Nettles played his final game as a member of the Montreal Expos.
3-3, 2 outs, 10th inning, ground ball, right side, base hit, it's over. Graig Nettles is the hero.
And with that, the 22-year career of a man who wore the pinstripes proud was over. Coming up next on Yankeeography.
Nettles was a guy that if you needed to win the game, he won the game for you.
What a play by Nettles!
If baseball is in your blood, rest assured the game stays with you for a lifetime. This is certainly the case with Graig Nettles. Today, Graig can be found watching the next generation, his son Jeff.
Oh, Jeff. I think he's doing great. You know, right now he's hitting .330. He's got a lot of home runs, making some great plays at third.
It's easy to impress your dad, but Jeff has also caught the eye of his famous coach.
He's made such strides just playing every day,
and against good competition.
Come on, baby. He's got to learn as he goes. He's not the power hitter that I was, but he's a better average hitter than I was. He's real aggressive at third base.
He runs every ball out, and he'll make some of the doggonest plays you ever want to see, some that his dad would be proud of, believe me.
He knows I know enough about the game as far as how to play and everything, but mainly he just tells me just go out there and play, have fun with it. You know, when you're not having fun playing it, then you shouldn't be doing it.
With the backing of Sparky and the genes of his dad, who knows how far Jeff might go, as long as it's baseball.
He loves the game, and that's all he wants to do is play. Like Sparky said, if he just has a chance to play every day and show people that he can play, then maybe he'll go up somewhere.
Graig doesn't coach his son, but he did lend his expertise to a superstar.
Ladies and gentlemen, number 13, Alex Rodriguez of the New York Yankees.
A-Rod joined the Yankees in February of 2004 as one of the best shortstops in baseball history, a 7-time All-Star who had established himself with both his bat and his glove.
Here's A-Rod in the hole. Off balance. Great play.
Wow, what a play by the All-Star.
But the Yankees already had a pretty good shortstop, so Alex had to make the move to third.
Playing shortstop was very, very challenging. Now coming over and playing a new position is going to be a great challenge, and I think Graig Nettles is going to be down in spring training, so I'm going to look for a little bit of leadership from his point of view.
Shortstop and third base are two different positions. At third base, that ball is hit like a shot. And Graig Nettles came to spring training to teach Alex what he knew.
I had an incredible amount of resources to go out and get better. I had a Hall of Fame Gold Glove third baseman. Not only was he a third baseman, but he played in the Bronx for many years.
He was a quick learner. You didn't need much instruction. I just told him, be alive. It's going to get on you a little quicker than it did at short. So I tried to get him to play deep like I did. You're able to pick your hop a little better that way.
Oh, what a play by Nettles.
Graig worked with A-Rod every day, helping him to adapt to both the speed and the nuances of the hot corner.
And you could see immediately, Alex's progress.
Swinging a hard ground ball.
Oh, a diving stop by A-Rod. Throws long across. Oh, what a play by A-Rod.
He gave me some great insight and just gave me more confidence.
Swinging a ground ball to third. Backhanded by A-Rod. Steps on third. Throws to the plate. Out at the plate.
Who knows? Someday Alex might prove to be the best third baseman ever to wear the pinstripes. But not yet.
Ladies and gentlemen, Graig Nettles.
For a period of time, he was as good all around as any third baseman in the game.
He smashed 37 home runs, collected 107 RBIs, and he won the Gold Glove Award all during the 1977 season.
Nettles was a guy that if you needed to win the game, he won the game for you.
Nettles' ability to hit when it mattered, to hit the big home runs, and to be really the heart of those winning teams of the 70s, to my mind, would make him the best third baseman in Yankee history.
You talk about great third baseman. This guy was magic at the hot corner.
Great third baseman, one of the best. Not only myself talk highly about him, I think every ball player. Graig Nettles is not in the Hall of Fame, but I think he should be there because you don't see a player like him every day.
Look at it this way sometimes. George Brett is in the Hall of Fame. Wade Boggs is in the Hall of Fame. But if you were approaching the 7th game of a big series and you had your choice, Nettles would probably be your pick ahead of Boggs. It gives you an idea of really what a quality third baseman Nettles was.
He was one of the best third basemen baseball ever had, Mr. Graig Nettles. I tip my hat off for him.
And while Nettles does have the respect and admiration of his peers, it's his legacy as a Yankee that he holds most dear.
I played for 6 different teams in the 22 years I played, and people, when they hear my name, they associate me with the Yankees. You just be a part of that tradition. It's hard to put it in words. I feel blessed to have been able to play for the Yankees.
Graig Nettles will always hold a special place in Yankees history. Not the flashiest, not a superstar, simply a man who delivered with both his bat and his glove, and one of the most important components on those great Yankees teams in the glory years of the 70s. They called Graig Nettles Puff because of his ability to instigate a prank or confrontation and then somehow vanish from the scene like a puff of smoke. Well, there's one place Nettles' disappearing act will always come up short, and that's from the hearts and minds of thankful Yankees fans. For the Yes Network, I'm John Sterling, and thanks for watching Yankeeography.